Okay, we'll hop into it. Thanks for being here this morning. So this is a first of a new series. We'll do this really kind of indefinitely. Once a month, continuing on in the next several years, stories of St. Augustine's stories. So it's basically oral histories with different St. Augustine's members. And we're learning sort of the story of St. Augustine's itself, the church's own history, but then people's lives of faith within that. I'm a historian. I do oral histories in my own work, so literally it's an oral history, but at any point, hop in with your own questions. It's very casual and informal. If you have things you'd like to hear more about, questions that occur to you, just raise your hand and we can hop into it. Okay. All right, so delighted to be visiting this morning with my friend Boardman. Let me start by asking, so before St. Augustine's existed, I know you were born and raised in Augusta. What was your religious life like growing up?
I was baptized at St. Paul's, confirmed at Good Shepherd, married at Good Shepherd, and then we kept having children, and so we needed a bigger house. And my husband went to Mr. Gwynn Nixon, and he said, I think Gwynn Nixon's father owned all of West Augusta, way out to I-20. We could ask John Nixon about that, but I think that's true. Anyway, my husband said, would you just sell me 25 acres somewhere? And Mr. Nixon said, no, I won't unless you promise to join my church that we're starting. And also, you got to give all your insurance to my brother, Mr. Scott Nixon. So until the day he died, we've had our insurance with Mr. Scott Nixon, who's long dead. But anyway, we wanted this 25 acres right up the street here. And finally, Gwynn Nixon said, okay, I'll sell you that land, which he did, and we built a house, and several other people did too. And then we started going to Daniel Village, where St. Augustine's people were meeting. And I forgot where, I thought they were meeting in a storefront, but this says that they were meeting in the merchant's meeting room in Daniel Village. But that's gone now. That's been taken over by a store. But anyway, we went there and we loved the people. And everybody was so excited about starting something new. I think that just kind of bonded people together. And so after that, we kind of outgrew that storefront, and we moved to the chapel at Oliver General Hospital. And you all might not remember the chapel because it's been torn down now. It's gone. But anyway, we met there for a while, and then we kept trying to raise money, and we built this building right here. It was the only thing, was this building. And we had, all the men got together, and I know y'all have seen these tacky little kneelers they made, covered in naugahyde, and because we just had chairs and those homemade kneelers. But anyway, everybody just threw their heart and soul into this project, and I guess it was just starting something new that they kind of bonded on. And then we had this building right here was the first one. But I got at my history, and I didn't remember the dates when these different buildings were built. But it seemed like when we would get a building like this, then they would start begging you for more money for the next project. And it just went on and on until we got the church. But I don't know whether any of you all remember Larry Stubb, the architect. We loved him, and he lived right up here across the street. And we'd come over, we'd ride our bikes down here every afternoon to see what they were doing. And it was just a good, fun feeling to start all this.
Hey, John.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
So how big was that initial? How many members are you talking about? How are you talking about?
Let's see. I would say probably 30 families.
Oh, that many?
And that's a guess.
Okay.
But there's nobody here to dispute me, so. Anyway, Good Shepherd had gotten so big because of the school. They brought in so many new people, and this was just a new project. And unfortunately to me, I don't know whether Terry would agree with this, but we're so close to our Savior and Holy Comforter. So here you've got 3 Episcopal churches within a small radius. And, but anyway, it was fine. Everybody that joined knew they had to take on a job. So it wasn't a question of asking or begging somebody to do something. They just knew they had to say yes. So everybody pitched in, and it was just fun. We had cookouts on Tuesday nights, and right out here we had people brought their grills, and the men did the cooking, and that was about it.
Yeah.
It was fun.
So St. Augustine's was founded, what, 1960, is that right? Late 50s,
Yeah.
early 60s?
60. It was organized as a mission in 60.
Okay.
But that was when we were at Daniel Village.
Yeah. And those 30 families, did they come out of, all come out of Good Shepherd? Did some of them come out of
No, they
St. Paul's?
did. They did.
Okay.
In fact, it really took off, not so much when Bob Batten was here. He wasn't here for long. But when Al Mead came, it took off. People just loved Al Mead. And we just had a big congregation then. And it says here, this building was built in 1962. So evidently we went for 2 years with no building. But, oh, I wanted to ask somebody here this question. And I can't remember, who chose the name? Or where did the name St. Augustine of Canterbury come from? I just don't remember.
Good question.
I wanted to ask you.
I'm sorry I can't answer it. Let's see my history thing. I don't see it on here.
We'll pursue it, see if we
Okay.
can find an answer. Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, what else y'all want to know?
Yeah, and so I know, just kind of studying local history, so the population of Augusta, Richmond County, was growing pretty significantly, after World War II. Was that, and I guess like the religious population, or people, church membership, religious
Yeah,
membership was
yeah.
increasing as well? And,
Yeah.
And so Good Shepherd got outgrown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they had so many parents from the school,
Okay.
children joining Good Shepherd. And it was good timing for us because we grew really well. Raising money seems to have been a constant thing because we just wanted these other buildings and we had to have money. One thing we had to do, I didn't realize when you started a church, you have to do everything. I mean, from making the little stupid kneelers to making all the altar linens. And the nice wife of St. Paul's minister, her name was Beppy Schilling, and she came up here every Wednesday, and we sat in here, and she showed us how to make all those altar linens. And you don't just sew them like you would if you're making a skirt. You have to have 20 stitches to the inch. And you think that's easy. It is not easy. And I love to sew, but anyway, we made all those altar linens, and we just knocked ourselves out. But I'm looking at this kitchen now. I don't know how we existed so long with that little kitchen, because it is little. But we did use grills a lot, and we set them up out there on that hill and cook, and we just have a good time on Tuesday night.
Maybe we should bring that back.
Well, Jim Said is the one that wiped it out. He said a friend of his was in an automobile wreck leaving the church one night after maybe a little alcohol, and he said I wiped out alcohol in the church after that.
Yeah.
But anyway, we did have fun until then.
When it was started as a mission, so I guess that had to get, obviously diocesan approval. Was that the bishop's idea? Was it sort of a local
I think
priest
you
idea?
have to Terry and John can answer this, but you have to be able to stand alone as a church.
Correct.
Okay.
Although I
And-
think Bishop Ben has made some changes with that, mission, yeah.
Yeah. But one thing we had back then that we were so active in that I don't know what's happened to it. We belonged to a convocation in this area. There were 13 Episcopal churches, and we did a lot of things with them. All
We
the,
still are, we're part of the Augusta convocation.
yeah. But I just remember going to meetings every time the convocation met. I think it was quarterly we would meet, and I don't even know now when they meet or what they do anymore. But anyway, I'm glad to know they're in existence.
It seems like the convocation nowadays is sort of like clergy meets, and there have been
Uh-huh.
some attempts to have like convocation-wide youth events.
Yeah,
But that's about it for,
We need to do that, that'd be fun.
yeah. It was just a good way to meet with other Episcopal churches and see what they were doing and how we could incorporate some of those things. Oh, and then another thing we did right at the beginning, we said, you got to bring one person with you to church that does not belong to this church. And everybody brought a friend. It was kind of hard because people like me, everybody I knew belonged to some church. But you had to scout around and find somebody. But we did. And then the men cut the grass. We couldn't afford to have any kind of lawn service or any of that yard business. So the men cut the grass and washed the windows, and it was just a real community kind of feeling that was fun. But I guess it goes back to the fact that mostly we were young, and you've got all that energy.
yeah.
So who was your first,
First what?
the first priest?
Herman Huff. And I don't know how long he was here, but not long. I would say a couple of 3 or 4 years. And then there was Bob Batten, who was a real outgoing, extrovert type person. But when it really took off was the next one was Al Mead. And people just loved him. He was wonderful. And his wife was wonderful. But one of my boys was in West Side at that time, and he wasn't studying, he wasn't working, and I said, we just got to send him off to school. So Al Mead had a daughter named Gretchen who went to the Kent Episcopal School in Connecticut. And so my son, and at the time I didn't know, Terry went there, John Nixon went there, and it was wonderful. But he finally said, if you'll just let me come home, I promise I'll start studying. So anyway, we had 4 people though from St. Augustine's that went to Kent. It's a beautiful school, but enough of that. What else?
What have you seen, so just from the beginnings of St. Augustine's all the way up to the present, what have you seen in terms of like periods of flourishing and periods of maybe struggle and flourishing again, that sort of thing? What have been the patterns you've seen?
I thought we just did fine until the COVID. I mean, the church would be 75% full on Sunday. And then COVID, and then everybody got to lying in the bed watching it on TV. And so, you know, I guess people said, why go to church? Why dress and go to church? We can watch it from our bed. So, of course, there's a big drop-off now. And I'm sorry, because it makes a difference. But I think Jim Nord has made a huge difference. He's good, and I've always known him, and I love him. So, what else?
In terms of just the worship service itself, what do you connect with maybe the most in a worship service? I've heard different things from different people.
Oh,
on
really?
kind of what they
Yeah, I
connect
know
with.
one person has told me repeatedly, he says, please talk to Terry and tell her we don't want to sing the Lord's Prayer. And I know you've heard that. Anyway, everybody's got little personal things to bitch about, but, I can remember when you didn't have Holy Communion every Sunday. You had it once a month. And when was it? 50, 60 years ago they started doing
When
it?
the new prayer book came into being.
Yeah. But that's good.
Yeah.
I think that's a unifying factor. But I do wish we could grow. We need to fill those seats and not look at and see those vast empty seats. And I don't know how Holy Comforter is doing, or Our Savior, because I haven't been back to either one of those lately. Any questions? Here we are.
Yep, yeah.
So Ann, one of the big divisive issues in the church in my lifetime was when Gene Robinson was appointed as the presiding bishop, and all the issues around same-sex marriage rose up. And how badly or not was the division present here at St. Augustine?
I really never noticed anybody leaving for that reason. And you know, if in your heart, if you say there's a little bit of Jesus in everybody and I love you, I don't care what you do when you go in your bedroom and slam the door. You know, I think it's just God loves everybody, and it's not for us to judge. But I don't think, I like it, I love it here, because I do think we accept all kind of people.
And it wasn't a fraught issue,
No.
at least not visibly in the
I really don't think so, and maybe I'm just so naive I didn't notice it, but I would like to ask Ned a question. What appealed to you when you and Adelaide moved here and had 5 children?
Yeah.
Why did you decide to join St. Augustine's rather than St. Paul's, where they have all kind of children's
Right.
programs? And
Well, I mean, the truth be told, Adelaide would be the better person to answer that question, because she preceded me here to Augusta by about a month, just because of some logistic stuff, and she was checking out the churches very assiduously. You know, she went to all the Episcopal churches. We had been a long time Episcopalians. I'm a cradle Episcopalian, and she just made it clear by the time I got here. Says, we can go to any one you want, and I did too. But she made it clear that St. Augustine's was the one where she felt like we fit best. And I will say, in my experience of going to all the churches, we did get welcomed pretty seriously at Holy Comforter. But St. Augustine's, I don't know, we just came and...
just a feeling.
People were just so outgoing. People were really welcoming and made it clear that they would love to see us return. And it was close, and it just worked. And it's been a great fit, and I'm so glad we picked it.
Well, you sure have been an asset.
Oh, thank you. That's nice.
I'm trying to get them to have more children.
Shots closed.
So I guess related to that, what do you think, I mean, you've told me this in just one-on-one conversations, but what do you think is St. Augustine's greatest virtue? Like, what do we do best?
Gee, that's hard. I would say we present a loving feeling. I guess that's kind of a personal thing that everybody would have to answer differently.
Or maybe rephrase it, what do you like best about St. Augustine's? Why St. Augustine's and not, say, going back to St. Paul's where you grew up, or Good Shepherd where you used to go? Like,
Well,
what about St. Augustine?
I don't have the feeling people come to church on Sunday because it's some sort of social thing to do. I mean, it's not your country club kind of church. Where I had a friend who moved from Charlotte, and he was a big banker. This was years ago, and he's dead now. But, I said, oh, I wish you'd come visit my church one Sunday. He said, oh, Ann, I got to go to a big church where there are lots of people because of my business. And I thought, damn, that is the stupidest reason I have heard. But anyway, he was a very successful banker, and I guess he met lots of important people at where he went. But I just think we're genuine, and I guess everybody would have to answer that, what it means to them personally.
I wanted to follow up on Ned's question. So at least as kind of the story's been told to me, the ordination of Gene Robinson, or not ordination, whatever, becoming bishop election, was right around the time that Neil Phelps, who'd been here for a long time, almost 30 years, I think, took a position in the diocesan office and then so left. And what do you remember about his time as rector, and then sort of the church in the immediate wake of his departure?
I don't remember it being a big thing. I guess at the time, I just came to church every Sunday, and my children came to church every Sunday, just because that's what we did. And I don't remember delving into reasons behind certain things. I just felt like we were a welcoming church, and whoever you are, Jesus loves you. Yeah. I mean, maybe that's naive.
No, so going back to the kind of the beginning, so you're a cradle Episcopalian, but you have friends who are other religious traditions or even religious beliefs. What do you personally connect with or appreciate about the Episcopal form of Christianity?
I tell you one thing, when you get old, it is wonderful to have a very deep faith, because you sure do need it. I mean, every day I do one stupid thing every day, and I keep looking back to, I think it's Jeremiah that says, and God has a plan for you. So I keep telling him, you better hurry up and tell me your plans, because I'm fading fast. It's just always been a part of my life. When I was a child, my mother and daddy went to church on Easter and Christmas, but we lived right across the street from where the city bus stopped. So they would give me a dime for the bus and a quarter to put in the plate, and I would ride the bus to Good Shepherd, and I had lots of friends there, and we would walk down to Strother's drugstore after church and flirt with the boys, and it was just a social thing. But then it grew into something bigger and more important.
So just in your life of faith, have you faced adversity, like some personal adversity, where you either challenged your faith or your faith was especially meaningful to you?
Yeah, but I don't want to go bad things. I don't want to go into them. I mean, I'd be here till 12 o'clock. But changing the subject, one thing we did that I still don't understand are these windows. And I have this little booklet. I got the girl who, she left St. Augustine's and never finished writing her story about the windows, and she went to St. Paul's. But anyway, this tells the story of the windows and what each window means, which I think you've got to be a genius to decipher what these windows mean. But anyway, they all have a reason, but if anybody wants to know about the windows.
How do you really feel about the windows?
It just looks like a bunch of broken glass to me. But they all have meanings behind them, but.
There's symbols in it.
Any other questions?
I've got a few more, but I want to, others are welcome to hop in with your questions.
Raymond DeLong might be along with me, the oldest member. I saw Raymond a little while ago, and I think, does he come to 8 o'clock, I think? Yeah.
He is our forever acolyte.
Uh-huh,
He's been an acolyte almost longer than I've been alive.
yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Let's see if I got any other. Oh, the bell tower was, I guess, the last thing we built. I don't know who got this history together, it wasn't me. But I wish John Nixon was here, he could collaborate some of this for
Yeah,
me.
we'll I think probably in December, we'll interview the Nixon brothers.
Oh, okay.
Did you have a question? Laura?
What can you tell us about the little chapel downstairs?
About what?
The little chapel that's downstairs.
Oh, yeah, oh, I love that. Let's see what year that was done. I think that was done under Father Bob Batten. The chapel is used weekly for Wednesday healing and Eucharist service. Is it still used?
Yes, I mean, not as much, we quit using it for healing because we could not stream, quit during COVID, and moved to the main church, because of Wi-Fi problems. We do weddings down there often.
Yeah.
I take confessions there, and when we do our quiet day, we meet there, so we utilize that chapel.
And I love the way, everything there, the pews were bought, given. I mean, they obviously came from some other church. And it's just a really warm feeling in the wooden walls.
That chapel, the name of it, Reverdos, is that, does anybody know the origin of that?
That's not the name of the chapel,
I think it's St. Bridget's Chapel.
Yeah.
Oh, so, what is that? I've seen that sign, that plaque in the.
Well, that's part of the rear church behind the altar, I think.
Oh, okay, all right.
Where it's back.
Well, what is the meaning of that word?
I think it means cross. The river does a type of cross, but I need to look at it.
Wait a second.
I've forgotten who gave the cross that hangs above the altar in the church. I just think it's so pretty with that light shining on it.
Because there's a similar one at St. Albans, maybe a little bit smaller,
Yeah,
fitting
yeah.
the
You're
space.
talking about the one in the hallway?
No,
Above
I'm
the-
talking in the
Oh, the
church.
Rex, Christ the King.
Somebody gave that, and I've forgotten who it was. It might have been the Clausen family. They belonged for a while, and then they left for some reason.
So I wanted to ask about just the presence of churches in the community, like in the city, Richmond County. Do you think they have a strong influence or sort of a noticeable presence in the community, or is it?
You mean all churches?
Well,
Oh, this church?
Yeah, this church. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people go to a bigger church. They may not even know it, but I think for social reasons. I mean, there are more children. Well, both of my sons belong to St. Paul's. And I asked my oldest boy, I said, why don't you come to my church? He said, I don't like modern churches. And I said, duh, that's about the dumbest reason I've heard. But anyway, it's what it is. And as long as we present a good, loving, welcoming presence, I think that's all we can do. But probably we do need to get out in the community more. And maybe if we could partner more with Aldersgate. I mean, they are really active.
Is there, was there in the past or is there today a strong sense of like diocesan identity? Like, do you ever go to conventions?
Yeah, Lord, yeah. Oh, and we had a quiet day at least twice a year. And I remember Billy Alford was the last one I came to here, but he was so good. And then we'd go to, one thing we did was take all the teenagers, at that time we had a lot of teenagers, we would take them, we went to a Jewish synagogue once, and then we'd get the rabbi to talk about what they believed, and help these teenagers absorb all this, and then we go to a Baptist church and all around, just to keep them interested. And I think we don't have probably enough teenagers now to do that, but it was really educational for me.
And what do you think about the just the Episcopal Church in the United States? Sort of its the path it's carved and its leadership.
Well, a lot of people, particularly people my age, would say it's too liberal, and I don't feel that way. I mean, I just think the church is open to everybody, and I don't believe in bringing politics into church, but I read an article last night I had cut out 15 years ago out of the Wall Street Journal about Turkey and how they have, I didn't remember this, but evidently the country Turkey has prosecuted Christians and just killed millions of Christians. And there are hardly any Christians left in the Middle East now. And that's really sad to me to think that's where it all started. And yet, how many Christians are in Saudi Arabia or any of those countries? Anyway, I don't know that we can do anything about that, but it's what it is.
So several years ago, you were the instigator of Bibles in the pews.
Yeah. Does anybody ever open one?
We hear it read, you know. Okay, we'll go to a closing question. What is your favorite hymn?
Lift high the cross. You know, when a funeral is over and everybody's walking out, that's really impressive to me. I had a friend who was buried at Sacred Heart about 4 years ago, and the church was packed. And he belonged to St. John's Methodist. But anyway, the church was packed. But on that bill organ, they played Lift High the Cross when everybody was walking out, and it was so impressive. I just loved it. But I like a lot of them. I couldn't pick one favorite.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing with us this morning, and thanks for being here.
And if anybody is interested in knowing anything about the windows, the broken glass, you can borrow my book.
Thank you.